What's up everybody, this is Master Ian Gamer. I'm going to start off today's video with a question. What is it that Overwatch players want? Now, if you yourself are still an Overwatch player, this may seem like a fairly silly or trivial question, but what do Overwatch players want? Because whatever it is, it's clearly something they haven't gotten for a very long time. That is, up until this most recent experimental card. Now, even if you're still a frequent Overwatch player, maybe you never even tried out this experimental card. Maybe you saw it, looked at the patch notes, thought, didn't even touch it, never even tried it once. But what I can say with certainty is that a lot, and I mean a lot, of players did play it. And they didn't just try it out for a couple matches before dropping it like my SR when I'm on Hanzo. They've been consistently playing it for the entire time it's been up. And I find this to be very interesting. At the time of me making this video, this experimental card has been up for almost 2 whole weeks. And still, despite this seemingly just being a random, goofy, unbalanced version of Overwatch, players are still regularly playing it. So much so that it has better queue times than quick play and competitive. But why is that the case? For the longest time, I've always talked about how the only content that players in general really care about are new heroes and new maps. And while those probably still take the top spots in terms of being significant content that players actually want to get their hands on, I think focusing on just those two particular types of content doesn't necessarily capture what it is players actually want out of Overwatch, which at this point, I am thoroughly convinced is simply new gameplay. That's it. Just new gameplay. It doesn't matter what form it takes, just something new to do. That is all players want, for the most part. The reason I think this latest experimental card has been so tremendously successful is not simply because it introduces a bunch of funky and wacky changes that aren't really balanced and would never make it to the actual competitive or quick play modes, but simply because it's giving players something they haven't been able to do before. And this has been achieved without adding any new maps, heroes, or even game modes. Even with the same 6v6 quick play role queue format, simply tweaking every single hero to the point that they play differently to at least some extent, with some heroes having pretty insane changes compared to others, introduces a new experience. For the first time in, dare I say, years at this point, you go into a match, see the map, select a hero, see the other heroes your teammates in the enemy team selects, and don't necessarily know how that match is going to play out. If you play Overwatch as much as I do, and especially if you're a very high skilled player who's playing within that very small competitive pool of people who sit there at the top of the ladder, which by the way isn't me, but I know a lot of people who are in that position, you get a pretty good idea of how every match is going to play out. Maybe you don't know who's going to win, maybe you don't know who's going to die first, or how long exactly it's going to take to capture each point, but you've just played with these same heroes, same maps, same balance over and over and over again that more or less you know what to expect. And for a long time, this is why I've said the only thing that'll really get people excited about the game again is new maps and heroes, not counting deathmatch maps, of course, because most people I realize don't actually care about deathmatch, but new standard game mode, quick playing competitive maps, and new heroes. Because what those fundamentally do is add new gameplay experiences to the game itself. If Blizzard were to say add Mauga as a playable hero, we don't know necessarily right off the bat how he's going to fit into the existing roster. If your team has a Mauga but their team doesn't, what's that going to mean? What about 2 Maugas going against each other? What sort of team compositions built around that character will best support him to allow one team's Mauga to beat the other? Simply adding a single new hero or a single new map where you don't know all the best positions to hold or the best strategies for pushing or who necessarily excels on that map adds so many new experiences to the game of Overwatch that freshens it up to such an extent that, well, it gives people a reason to play it again. But lo and behold, you don't even need a new map or hero to inject new freshness into the game itself. Simply giving Hanzo his scatter arrows back, or letting Lucio Goomba stomp enemies with his ultimate, injects enough new strategy and new scenarios that the player can experience when playing any given match, that it freshens up the experience, and maybe doesn't feel like you're playing a new game or anything to that extent, but at the very least, you don't know already what you're gonna get when you enter a match with this latest experimental patch. Things are different enough to make it exciting and interesting, and it feels like you're playing something fun and new, even when on the grand scale it's only a tiny bit different to the game you've been playing for the last 5 years. And that's why I hope if the Overwatch devs take nothing else away from all the testing and all the progress they've made in Overwatch over the course of this past year, the one thing they need to acknowledge as having been successful, an important lesson on what makes the Overwatch player base actually interested in playing the game, is this latest experimental patch. Was it the best thing we've gotten in Overwatch all year? Probably not. Maybe some people will say it was, because there are some people who've been absolutely in love with this latest patch, but I won't go so far as to say it's definitively the best thing we got all year. But Blizzard needs to see what happened with this latest experimental patch and learn that this is what's actually going to keep people interested in the game. They can add all the micro events and new cosmetic items they want, and I hope they keep adding those because, skins have their own value and are definitely a really cool feature for the game and a great way to monetize it conveniently. But in terms of getting people legitimately excited for Overwatch, skins don't do it. It's the gameplay that ultimately matters. And I think it even goes beyond just that a bit. Up until this year, Blizzard was pretty frequently adding in new event-only game modes, where it's like, a variant on Deathmatch, where it's like the bounty system, or you get these new remixed Lucio Ball maps with the obstacles and the multi-balls and everything. And those were fun, and I think were similar to what's going on with this latest experimental patch, but ultimately, I don't think those were quite as successful, and I think the reason for that is they weren't the same standard quick-playing competitive game modes, just with new variants injected into them. When you look at the number of people who are going to play Lucio Ball, it's always going to be smaller than the number of people who want to play quick play or competitive. So sure, you're going to satisfy a lot of people who already like playing Lucio Ball when you add in the Lucio Ball remix mode with the Summer Games event, but that's just a drop in the bucket compared to how many people you're going to satisfy by taking the existing quick play and competitive game modes and adding in crazy new abilities that fit that same format. You're just catering to a much larger portion of the player base when you focus on things like experimental patches like this, as opposed to just other little minuscule limited time game modes. So, what does this mean for Overwatch going forward? Well, hopefully Blizzard is going to be giving us more of these. And I don't just mean one more, another 6 or 8 months from now. I'm talking this needs to be a regular thing if they want to actually maintain Overwatch players at this point. But also, they need to start finding ways to build off of this. We may not be getting any new maps or heroes in 2022, at least not for the base Overwatch game, but Blizzard can still find other ways to keep the gameplay fresh, to keep players satisfied, by, at a bare minimum, regularly doing things like the Creator Experimental patch. I think without a doubt, this was probably the most successful experimental patch there has ever been. Maybe the April Fool's patch would be comparable, since it was a very similar sort of format, but that was a bit more in the wacky direction and maybe wasn't quite as well balanced as this one is. So if the Overwatch dev team just keeps up with patches like this, getting more and more creators involved in the decision-making process for what to change with each specific hero, and maybe finds a way to start building on top of that, which I guess I should also mention at this point, the Creator Experimental Patch tournament they had running was a huge success. People loved both playing in that tournament and watching people play it. So right off the bat, there is something easy that they can continue to have going forward, building off this base gameplay variant idea, but they just gotta keep adding more. As for what that more is exactly, well, I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see. I'd certainly love to hear some of your ideas regarding this down in the comments below. Did you find yourself enjoying this latest experimental patch as much as myself and many others have? And if so, what sort of ideas do you have to build off of this model to keep players engaged and interested in playing Overwatch prior to the release of Overwatch 2? That'll do it for this video though. Thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe, follow me on Twitter, hit up that bell icon, and come join my Discord Discord server to hang out and never miss any of my future Overwatch content. Special thanks to my YouTube channel members who help make these videos possible, and if you'd like to join them to earn some cool rewards, then just hit that join button down below. This is Master Ian Gamer signing off, and I'm gonna go play that experimental patch some more before it disappears forever, so until next time, have a great day.